Well, thank you for Scott Stewart. He ran away. I was just going to say thank you to him. You know, that guy's awesome. He's really helped us build this thing. And he keeps all the speakers in check. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I've actually done this presentation before at a previous meetup, and it was so awesomely fun. And none of those other people are going to experience it. This is going to be a fun presentation. No notes are required. This is just going to go through the process. We're going to talk about importing Joomla into WordPress, and we're going to talk about how to essentially build a business website from nothing to something very quickly. Some administrative notes. You don't have to write anything down, and if you have any questions, just go ahead and hold them till the very end, and then write them down for me, please. I want to answer them, and then we'll talk through them after the presentation. So my presentation is WordPress lets me do it. And has anyone heard of WordPress? WordPress, yes. Well, we've heard of it because we've been empowered with this thing, this wonderful thing called WordPress. It's allowed me to do a lot of wonderful things in my life. And so we're going to get into it. Now, I'm going to start with my story. Once upon a time ago, I'm into archery. So there we am, that's me. I'm into archery, and one of my archery people, they came up to me and said, our website is outdated. Our web designer's disappeared. Can you please help me? And the web design, and I said, well, I don't know, because you always have that. I'm not sure if I want to put that much time into it. And then they brought it up on their phone, and it was very, very, very obvious what it was. All right, so we know what that is, just from a glance, don't we? It's Joomla. So as you use your computer, as you use and work on websites, you very quickly begin to see the difference between a Joomla site and a WordPress site, because WordPress is what? Awesome. Joomla looks like that. Okay, so I say, well, you know what? Sure, I know WordPress. I can do that. And so I took it upon myself that day to work on starting reviewing their website. Their website is SanDiegoArchers.com, which is an archery website. And it was, like I said, many years outdated. But what was interesting, it had like 10 years of photos and pictures. All those things that you got blow your mind. How am I ever going to migrate this? And really, it was like very intimidating when I first started. By the way, I've never used Joomla before. So I never used Joomla before I actually started this project, but I said, it's WordPress, I can do it. It's easy enough. And so I started with the first thing we always do when we want to build a website, right? Build a theme. All right, so we got to get our theme. So our theme is going to be what? Pretty much any random thing? No, you've got to look for what? Your speed and general appearance that's somewhat similar to the prior site, kind of to get started. But truthfully, when it comes down to it, mobile, right? Mobile is like it. So you've got to build your website and your theme for mobile and prepare it and build it out for that. And so that's what I did. I used GTmetrix as an example way in which I can kind of test different themes and get an idea of how fast they were on mobile and on desktop. And they looked pretty good. So I said, okay, that's fine. Let's grab it. So I grabbed the theme, I installed it, and then went into the fun part. I installed WordPress, all right? Hello world, first put it up. Okay, now what do I do? All right. I have no idea. I've never used Joomla before. I've never imported Joomla before, so what am I going to do with it? And so I immediately looked around on the internet, and I found 2 or 3 different places that said, import Joomla by following these steps. I reviewed a few of them. Interesting. It seemed like the one that hit everyone's interest was FG Joomla. FG Joomla seemed to be really cool. And so I just did it. I just grabbed the FG Joomla plugin, I installed it into my Hello World WordPress site, and then I just got at it. And I imported the content like 3 times, and I'll tell you why. Because within the FG Joomla setup, there's a whole bunch of crazy settings. And there's things called behavior, and that's what FG Joomla uses. And so I checked the boxes, and I did whatever I did. Again, I have no idea what Joomla is. So I basically went in there and did it. I clicked the boxes, I imported. Oh man, I missed lots of stuff. So then I did it again. Oh man, I missed lots of stuff. The 3rd time was a charm, got everything in there, looked good. The menus actually were there. Whoa, blew my mind. This FG Joomla plugin was so good that it actually got the basic menu structure, and it got all of the basics of WordPress and of Joomla into WordPress nicely. So then I figured out something very quickly. Joomla loves categories. So if you take away from any of this, and if you're ever doing a Joomla import, Joomla loves categories. So we all know about menus, right? Menus in WordPress, and you can set up menus to actually set up for categories, so they'll like list a particular thing. Well, this particular Joomla account was all about categories. 2017 had like 1 million articles, pictures and all that. So after a while, I played with the menus because they weren't perfect, obviously. They were there, but they weren't perfect. And then I went through the process of playing with the menus, assigning the categories appropriately. And now my time. I got to figure out how to make my new website sort of look like the old website so that I can get adding all my wonderful things that I want to add. So the next thing I did was staging. Any of you use staging on your websites? Anything like that? Well, staging is a wonderful thing, and it's a necessary thing, right? Because you don't want to be working on an active website. For one, if you break it, it's down for the period of time. And for two, if you break it, it's down for a period of time. Okay, so don't break your website. Go to a staging environment. Now, what I do, which is kind of neat, is that I actually set up staging on my own hosting account. Keep in mind, this website is hosted somewhere else. I don't even know who the host is at this point. So I actually had the host over there, and then what I did is I took their Joomla installation, and then I moved it over to my web hosting company, and then I used a thing called, kind of side-by-side testing, I used a thing called Gas Mask for Mac OS. Has anyone used that? So, why would you want to do this? Because you're probably saying, well, my hosting company has staging, I'll just set it up there or whatever. Well, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it doesn't. And so if you want to stage really well, you'll use what's called a local host method. And using the host file manager of your computer, which sounds really complicated, right? But truthfully, it's not. Once you do it a couple times, it will become your bread and butter go-to for every website you develop and build out for your client. It will literally become like, I can't believe I never did this before. This is the most awesome thing. And in reading my writing here, host file is the fancy name for a file on your computer which allows you to set the IP address of any website or even block website addresses. So the value of that is that you can make your website, abc.com, set it up on your personal computer and set the local host setup so that you're only seeing abc.com on your computer and it doesn't affect anything on the world. You can break it, you can do whatever you want. So my methodology was get that website set up on my local server, use the local host method to kind of allow me to see both the existing website and the other website. And I could kind of go back and forth very, very quickly. By the way, there is actually a PC app for your PC guys. I love PC guys. They're good people. It's called Host File Manager. All right. So you got your Gas Mask for Mac and you got your Host File Manager. But I'm on a Mac, as you're going to see. So I am going to try to stick with the Mac stuff. All right. I'm going to show you how easy Gas Mask is to use. This is probably the most technical part of my whole presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Gas Mask, and then and if I know the IP address of the website, yourwebsite.com, I put the IP address first, I put the domain name second, and I click Save. That's it. If you take anything from this presentation, you just learn that you can use a simple application that's free and be able to look at any website on the internet on your personal website server, or even on your computer. And you can do it within 2 steps. And then you take that domain name, go to your web browser, and bada boom, you're looking at it on your computer. So I'm going to go back, since I want to talk about localhost briefly to kind of explain what I did in order to work on both sites at the same time. I'm going to jump a beat. I'm going to go back to working with Joomla. Because, Joomla is just like any other program. It has its own its own things that it does in categories, big time in categories. So when I went into the menus, I basically set up the categories of my menu items so that they appropriately equal the categories of the existing website. And it worked out very well. 20 minutes later, I was done. I'm like 1 hour, by the way, into this process. Not 5 days. I'm 1 hour. I've installed my WordPress, I've set up my Joomla install, I've imported, and I'm already at the menu part of it. So as we all know, there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be done, so what are we going to do? We have a lot of things we're going to do. Now, my whole purpose of doing this project was to bring in interaction. People would be interacting with the website as best they could. So I'm going to first start by using Better Search and Replace. Anyone use this plugin? I mean, it's like, it is the bread and butter of working on any website. There's lots of search and replace plugins, but obviously I am translating 10 years, essentially, of website data from one website to another, so I need to be able to do some find and search and replaces, because I'm obviously going to find stuff broke. All right, so that's my thing. And so I immediately went down the list because I want to make my website as interactive as possible. Once I fixed the menus, once I fixed all the stuff, then I literally went in and started working on the social media aspect of it. And this is where it gets fun, because they already had an Instagram account, and they had some other social media accounts, so my goal was to bring everything into the website so it would be interactive. So I used Instagram Feed, for example. Wonderful plugin. It allows you to take your Instagram stuff and it kind of brings it right in, pretty pictures and everything else. And I used, in this particular case, because the members of this club wanted to share the information between each other, I installed a thing called Epic for Comments, which is, again, just it's like a forum script. And you'll be able to look at that if you go to the website, by the way, which has long since been done, but you can actually go to SanDiegoArchers.com to see the results of all my work. Redirection. Anyone heard of the redirection script? All right, so as you know, redirection is like the most important script plugin on the entire planet when you move a website from one place to another, and there's a lot of different links, or you're making changes from maybe a different URL, maybe you had a subdomain set up or something. The bottom line is that you want to be able to, in any sort of move from a Joomla or a Drupal over to WordPress, you're going to have a lot of links that are going to be abandoned. They're going to be orphaned. So you're going to want to go look into Google and see what some of those links are to get an idea of how to set up your redirections, and then use the redirection script to actually do some 301 redirects. So we all know how important 301 redirects are, right? Right? If I got 10 years worth of website links on Google, I'm not just going to let them all die. I'm going to tell Google 301 redirect SanDiegoArchers.com/blah blah blah to the new better link. And so that's really an essential plugin. And you want to get away from using redirection link later on. You want to kind of allow things to kind of naturally fall out, but you'll need to use the redirection link in almost all cases. And then back into the interaction part of it. So they had a nice YouTube account, so I set up video sidebar widgets so that I can incorporate video and all into it. And then I added in an events calendar because it's a club. They needed to know when events are going to happen. So we went that route. So now the fun part. And the part I didn't even mention, and all those people are going to miss it, is truthfully the whole working the social media bits. What have I done? I've taken a WordPress website. I've imported into Joomla. I've set up the menus. I've set up the appearance. I've set up the redirections. I've set up the basic media bits that'll make it look alive. And now the next thing is for me to set up all of the social media accounts appropriately. And so I will set up my, update the Facebook account properly, update Twitter, Instagram, and my Google account. And I don't need the Google account for social media, but I'm going to come back to that because that's fun. IFTTT it hard. Does anyone know what IFTTT is? IFTTT is the most important thing there is for making things happen across the board. So any time that I would literally go to when I would post a tweet, I want IFTTT, which is a third-party service. You go to their website and you set it up so that any time that I tweet, one tweet, it then immediately posts on Facebook. And it immediately posts in Instagram. And it immediately posts in YouTube. All of these things are an essential aspect of developing the social media for your client because they need to keep it simple. Your stuff, when you post it, needs to be everywhere at once. So IFTTT allows you to do that. It allows you to do a whole lot of other wonderful stuff too. But that's the basics. And then moving on, now that I've done everything from creating the website, I've got my Joomla set up, I've got my social media set up, now I want to make it fast. Because Google likes what? Google not only likes SSL, but it likes speed. Speed being the most important thing. So you want to I already started with the speed objective, so now I'm going to continue that, and I'm going to put stuff in place. I'm going to Cloudflare it. I always start with Cloudflare because Cloudflare is the easy. Set it up, it automatically does all the caching for you, and it's international, so other people who are looking at it in Canada are going to see roughly the same speed as someone in Nova Scotia or Africa or somewhere else. It's all roughly going to be in that content delivery network. And it does some other cool things too. And then also I add in some plugins. I love auto-optimize, or auto-optimize, excuse me. And that's a wonderful thing. And by the way, you guys don't have to take any notes, like I said, because when I'm done, I'm going to give you this slide to you. I'm going to give this whole slideshow to you. You can just take it. Auto-optimize is a wonderful little plugin that does some pretty cool things. Even while Cloudflare does some really interesting things, I find that auto-optimize actually increases my GT metrics, even though I have everything else installed. I turn it off, and all of a sudden my score go down. Proof's in the pudding. Cache Enabler, Cache Enabler is another wonderful plugin that I really like. And then Smush It. I mean, what is the most important thing on your website when you set it up? Let's forget this discussion. What's the most important thing? That people can get to your website really fast and that things load really fast, right? So what is the one thing that slows your website down more than anything else, right? Images. Doesn't matter what job you're doing or what client you're using, you need to get your images as small as possible. Not only for Google's benefit, but also for all your clients and visitors' benefits. So Smush Image is one I use, but there's a gazillion others. They're all wonderful. And then we're going to protect it because we like security, right? I'm a security guy. I kind of like that. It's my thing. So I'll install Jetpack Protect or WordFence, and those are really good for kind of reducing the number of bots and connections from places maybe you don't want that may slow your website down. So now we're going to test. You know we're done. Everything I've done so far is the entire process. I've completely done it. I've imported, I've set it up, I've socialized it, I sped it up, I cached it. So the client needs to be given this project because I don't want to manage this for the rest of my life, so now it's time to give it to them. So now I'm going to test all the social bits. When I say test all the social bits, I mean things like test my IFTTT, right? I'm going to do my Twitter. What happened? Wait 5 minutes. Boom! Facebook. Instagram, stuff is everywhere. I want to be able to give those accounts out to my clients so that anytime that they post an Instagram picture from their phone, it immediately gets tweeted. I'm literally on the archery range, firing with my people. We're at the club. We're doing a tournament. I've given the Twitter account off to one of the people. They're literally taking pictures in real time, and it's automatically uploading to Facebook. It's automatically uploading to Instagram and all those places. So I've done all of this just from these 4 slides. It's that easy. And now I am going to Search Console it. Who forgets this part? When you work with Google, right? Do you work with Google? If you don't work with Google, they're going to be a really slow time indexing your stuff. Has anyone heard of the Google Search Console? It used to be called the Webmaster Tools, right? Right? So they call it now the Google Search Console. So after you complete your website and you get it all online, you get it all fast and socialed, then you want to go right to your Google Search Console and set your set your www domain, your non-www domain, and who does not have an SSL certificate today? Who does not have an SSL certificate on your website? All right, shame on you. Shame, because so many good hosting companies are providing it for free. You just need to set up your SSL certificate so that when you go to your Google Search Console, you set up your www, your non-www, and then you set up, most importantly, https:/your domain. You do those 3 things in the Google Search Console, wait 2 days, usually, and all of a sudden your website will appear on the internet with a beautiful secured link that'll say https://. If you don't do what I just mentioned, it's very possible that your website's still not going to show that beautiful HTTPS secure SSL link. You want that, all right? Okay, you all know about Google, right? You know that they love SSL. Who hasn't heard this? It's actually been around for a year, that Google loves SSL. And that if you do not have an SSL certificate, that you will actually get a warning. Some people will get a warning on their browser that'll actually say, your site is not secure. Well, what sort of confidence does that build in your customers and clients, right? I get this call all the time. I set them up with their host. They call me a year later. Jim, you secured my website and it's all great, but now people are calling me on the phone and telling me that it's not secure. Let me tell you about that. And so I have to go through the process of showing them how to set up the SSL certificate, and then I go through the process of going to Google Search Console and then establishing it within a few days. That little horror story is closed. And then now they have a beautiful SSL. Google says, oh, you're good in local search. You have an SSL certificate. I'm not saying it's always going to happen, but it's more likely that you're going to get above, you're going to rank above your competitors just by doing that simple 5-minute exercise that I just told you to do. Now pass on the keys, right? I'm going to pass the keys on. I've done everything. I built the site. I've set up the social. I've set up Google. I've set up the SSL. And now I'm going to pass the keys on to the client. What I'd like to leave with you all with, I had no idea what Joomla was. Nothing is really hard to do anymore. You can do it. I'm really not that smart. All right? You know, guys, I am really not that smart. But I work long hours and I work hard at what I do. And so I just figured, what the heck, it might take me a few hours or maybe a day or two, but I did it. I'm going to leave you with something that'll kind of give you, I just love this and I think you'll enjoy it too, so bear with me.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for?
Just do it.
Do it!
You know the words.
Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it! If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
What can I say? Thank you. Thank you for paying attention to me. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you. I just love doing this presentation, mainly for that. So that said, let's move on to any questions that you might have. Go ahead. Yes, I'll start from the right and I'll sweep right to left. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not sure if since you're in a club, it was for profit or not.
It was nonprofit.
Okay.
And I did it at no cost.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I literally said,
my
I'm going to do it.
question.
Yeah.
When, something you haven't done before,
Mm-hmm.
you have no idea how long it's going to take.
Yes.
And I've had this type of thing happen before where, now you do, because
Mm-hmm.
if you ever had to do it again, you would probably quote a good price. But
Right.
where would you go with that?
Well, this particular project, again, it depends on the client. They asked me as a favor, so I did it.
Sure.
So, I mean, this particular project, you really have to understand what the requirements are of the client. I mean, how much media interaction, social media, yada, yada. So I can't really give you that number because it really depends on the job. Now, if it was this job, this was a pretty involved job. Now, I had some understanding of how to do it because I know the bits, right? So this particular one might have been a few $1,000s, I mean, by the time it was all done. I'm still working on it. I mean, so I'm still putting time into it weeks after the fact. So if I was charging them, it would probably be a reasonable sum, is the best way for me to put it.
My biggest element was, of course, all of the things you could look at the site and
Yes.
pare that down. But the biggest question mark you had going into it was if you could even get Joomla into WordPress.
Again,
That time.
the best thing I can say is just do it. All right? And I mean, WordPress lets me do it. That's what this is called. So I said to myself, I know WordPress, I can do this. So I just stayed. What was the worst thing that would have happened? I could have told them I've spent a few hours on it, I can't do it. Right?
So how long did it take you to do it 3 times?
I did all this whole thing in one day. I finished the whole project in a day.
Importing Joomla into
Everything.
everything.
I did everything within a matter of hours. And then the tweaking of the menus and adding the new menu items that I felt were more social, adding in some of the other aspects of the site to make it prettier, that took obviously a little longer. But the actual having the website up and running and giving the keys to the client happened same day. It literally was. That most of us have an understanding of WordPress, and once you get the basics, it's just about following the bits. Get the bits in place, and then when they're done, you can then work out the fine-tune of it.
And I may have missed this, but did you have a zipped, like their site zipped together in?
Well, with Joomla, with the Joomla FG Joomla plugin, yeah, you have to actually you're actually going to have the website on the same account, and then you're going to import. It actually asks for the database info and it pulls it in. Another question? You had a question? No. All right.
Yes, sort of twofold question. On the things that you always put into a site.
Yes.
I missed the last bit. You put Jetpack, Protect, and there was something underneath that. I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah, there was.
WordPress.
I'm a big believer in Jetpack Protect is actually a pretty good quality product. It was a Brute Protect once upon a time ago, and then the Jetpack people bought it, and it does really well for denial of service / bot blocking. It does that very well because it's now more of a community source project. Pretty much everyone who uses it, they're sharing that bad information or good information with Jetpack in terms of mass IP connections, and then that's helpful. WordFence is the same thing. WordFence is its own firewall, and it's a socialed firewall as well, where people are contributing data all the time.
Okay, so thank you for that. And second of all, with Cloudflare and Cache Enabler, is that two caching components?
Okay, so let's talk about the difference between a content delivery network and internal caching. So external caching is a wonderful thing. It allows people in Canada to view the website at roughly the same speed as, let's say, someone a mile from the network operations center. This content delivery network allows people on the outside to essentially be cached worldwide. Definitely has advantages for local caching in what you're referring to, but I find that caching plugins still help greatly. They help greatly with a lot of things that are happening within the website. And I do recommend, don't take my word for it. I mean, just because I do these things doesn't mean these are the do this, do this, do this. Cloudflare, I think, is super, super important, and it's free, and it has some SSL installation advantages for free. So everything I do here is free. And so take advantage of those things, and then try like Autoptimize and Cache Enabler are two that I found that trio tends to work really well for certain types of websites and not for others. And you can test it. GT Metrics. Anyone else use another tool besides GT Metrics to do some general website speed testing?
Grader.com.
Pardon me?
Grader.com.
Grader, Greater.com?
Grader.
Got it. Grader, as in grade test. Grader.com. So any of these tools are going to do things like identify how large the graphics are, and give you an idea what you need to minimize with the Smush image or some other plugin. Or they're going to give you some ideas on things in your web page that need to be taken out. Many of us have plugins installed, like Twitter plugins and other things that could be done better, and they drastically slow your website down if you have them installed. So I would recommend that if you're doing a lot of social media on the website, you look at that first as being the first thing that's likely going to slow you down because they're doing external calls. Next question? Yes, ma'am.
We were talking about the Google Search Console.
Yes.
You set up 3, one with www, one with just a domain, and one with HTTPS.
Correct.
Did you do the HTTPS as www or just...
Good question. So when you're setting up your website and you are deciding on what it's going to be, personally I default to whatever Google is already. It's just one less worry. So if it's an existing website, then it's going to be like www already, or it's going to be non-www. In this project, it happened to be that for 10 years, SanDiegoArchers.com was always http://SanDiegoArchers.com. I had no reason to add the www in front of it. So the answer to your question, don't make your life more difficult. Just take it for what it is, unless you have a need or reason to put the www on. I think www is sort of a 1990s thing. Back in the day, you had to physically type www.a domain name to get to it. So there's really no need for it any longer. Does that answer your question? Somewhat?
I guess my question is more what Google wants.
What Google wants, and I'm glad you asked that because that's another article that I wrote, and that is what Google wants is they want SSL, they want HTTP, be it www or non-www. It doesn't matter. All they want is they want it to be secure. And if you get it secure, it's likely you're going to improve your SEO, search engine optimization, more so than your competitor who is clueless. And you're not clueless now. You know stuff. Another question? Yes, sir.
And when you have an SSL, what is the purpose of in Google Search Console to do free?
Okay, so Google Search Console likes for you, and I've never fully understand the reason why. Someone can school me on this later if you like. But what I find is that when you go to the Google Search Console, it'll tell you, have you set up the other version? It forces you to do it. It forces you to set up the www and the non-www version. So if mine, in her case, my website doesn't use www. So I would set up the www version of the website first, and then I would set up the second one as https:// the domain. And then that often will work. Or you can go all the way and set up the www, the non-www, and then go the third route, which is the https. I hope I'm not talking too fast. There's a lot of letters in there. But I personally, because I'm old school, I do three. I do the www, and then I do the final SSL, and then I save.
Google does, I know where Google does it.
Yes.
Google does it because not every host automatically creates both.
Okay.
They didn't used to.
Yes.
Most of them do today.
Yes.
So Google forces you so that it sees both of them.
Once upon a time ago, a www could be a totally different website than the non-w, and no one does that anymore because it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's sort of,
Yeah.
it's old stuff.
It's old school.
They're still fighting.
You got it. Any other questions? Wow, that was fun. Oh, sir.
I was just going to say, SSL is awesome for security, but Steve.
Yeah. Okay, so he just brought up something that no one knows about. And truthfully, no one knows this. SSL used to be slow. Used to be, I'm not setting up an SSL because it's slow. Newer technologies of web server operating systems using HTTP2 love SSL. They love it so much that you actually get a speed boost from it. So when you use an HTTP2 host, not only do you get the security advantage, you also get a little bit of a speed boost. You may or may not have noticed, it depends on your hosting company, but actually HTTP/2 is built for SSL. It actually, you used to say that if you have HTTP2 set up on your website and you didn't have SSL, it would be slower. All right, so that's what HTTP2 is about. HTTP2, Google, they get it. They get that SSL is important. They get that your security is important. And by the way, how many of you go to the coffee shop and go to your website, WP admin, and don't have an SSL certificate on your website? Okay. You call me on the phone because maybe, hey, Jim, can you check my website to see it's been hacked? And I will more than willing to help you with that. You can significantly reduce the likelihood that you're hacked when you are traveling by ensuring that your website has HTTPS. And why is that? Because if you don't have HTTPS and you're sitting in a cafe in Brussels, how many hackers are probably on that open network, hotel network, just sitting with their computers down in the basement watching every single connection? I can't tell you how many times that I've had clients come back from a trip and say that their website or their email was hacked because they pass it in the clear. HTTPS is a compression that compresses and encrypts your connection so that you're not sending admin. Hey, I wonder what those funny characters are after admin. This is the hacker sniffing your connection. I wonder what those kind of funny connection characters are. He goes to your website, because it's in the same line of the log, and he types in admin and those funny characters, and he's now logged into your WordPress. Had you had SSL in place, he could not have. Or he could have, but it would have been extremely difficult. Yes, sir?
Do you ever use the social network auto poster?
Yeah, I didn't want to get into that, but yeah, he's talking about using some of the social network auto posters. I'm old school. I don't really get into that. I love the IFTTT. All right. Any other wonderful questions? All right. Thank you very much. It's been wondrous time talking to you all. If you have any questions, come see me at any time.
If you would like to just do it,
Yeah.
I'll write down one. You
Yeah.
have to.
Oh, I would love that. Please, right here. take that. Right on the back.
Where do we get the slides?
If you're going to need the slides, then go ahead and email me. Come on, one more. There we go. Just email me at that address, jim@HackRepair.com.
Google, YouTube.